Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Evan Santana, and I would like to introduce you to ENVI. Can everyone see my screen all right?
Perfectly.
Awesome. So what is ENVI? ENVI is an enterprise SaaS tool to track, rate, and report sustainability performance. And we're specifically looking at the consumer goods sector. And I chose the consumer goods sector because household consumption has possibly the largest impact on the health of our planet. And what I realized was that more and more consumers were beginning to prioritize the environment. They wanted to purchase eco-conscious goods. They wanted to live more sustainably, but they didn't trust the corporate messaging from brands trying to sell them those products. In fact, over half of consumers don't believe that brands are fostering true progress. And yet 80% of consumers still expect those same brands to speak out about societal issues. So there's this disconnect here. ENVI wants to solve this disconnect by being a credible pathway of communication between the brands and consumers. And we want to do this with three main steps: creating a mission, implementing a strategy, and communicating a success. Now, this all starts with the brands. ENVI is providing an environment for brands to disclose data through our ENVI SaaS tool. We're then working to supply those brands with insight into consumer preferences, trying to understand what's influencing consumer buying behavior. And then we are evaluating client data, really working to highlight areas for improvement, but also highlighting success. And then finally, working to communicate those successes to consumers via our ENVI Marketplace app. Now, the ENVI consumer-facing Marketplace app will be a staggered release after the launch of our enterprise SaaS tool. So why now? Well, sustainability is a growing purchase driver. In fact, it's a top 5 purchase driver for 50% of consumers. And that percentage grows when you consider consumers who are generally willing to spend more for a sustainable good. It grows to 2/3. Now, breaking that down a little bit further, 32% of millennials and Gen Z are willing to pay twice as much for a sustainable alternative. And yet there's still this disconnect. 78% of consumers still don't know how to find those brands and those products that match their values. So how does it actually work? Again, it starts with the brands. So brands log into ENVI's SaaS tool. They input their data, their information that's requested from them. That data is then evaluated according to ENVI's algorithm, which we've developed. A performance report and a rating is then generated, and it's given back to that brand in the form of feedback. Brands then have the opportunity to publicize that report, that rating data on our ENVI Marketplace app so that consumers can then use it to make buying decisions. Now, the screenshots that you're seeing on the left here are from an earlier version of our SaaS tool. The final MVP is projected to be completed in January. So our ENVI algorithm, what does that actually mean? What data are we looking at? How are we evaluating it? So we're looking at 3 main types of data that we will be receiving from brands, and we are going to be evaluating that data along 5 different metrics. Now, carbon emissions is probably the metric that you're most familiar with. I think it gets talked about the most, but we wanted to make sure that our definition of sustainability was as comprehensive as possible. And that's why we're looking at these additional metrics. Our go-to-market strategies. So before I jump into that, I want to share a little bit about what we've done in the past and why we've chosen to pivot. So earlier this year, ENVI was offering one-on-one consulting services to brands in the CPG space. Specifically, we spent 6 months working with 3 brands in the hair goods and hair accessories sector. We generated a little over $67K in revenue, which was really exciting for our first year in operations. But we realized very quickly that consulting is not scalable, it's not efficient, and it wasn't really getting at the problems that we wanted to solve. And that's why we chose to pivot to the SaaS tool. So as far as our go-to-market strategy, we're going to be first targeting the cosmetic and skincare sector. There are a couple of reasons why we want to start with this sector, but we do plan to branch out into other consumer goods markets within 3 years. So those markets would be household cleaning, kitchenware, and clothing, for example. And the brand that you're seeing here on the bottom right corner, Lamique Beauty, is going to be our first user tester once we've completed our MVP. So we're really excited about that. Now, to give you a better sense of what the cosmetic industry actually looks like, in the US, the skincare industry is comprised of approximately 115,000 brands, generating $31.6 billion in revenue. That's in 2022. Now, with some data from Deloitte, we're able to see about how much this industry is spending annually on marketing and R&D. And that's led us to target brands in this sector that are generating a minimum of $1 million in revenue per year. Now, to give you a sense of the SAM, our target price at launch is $3,500 per brand per year. So the potential revenue here with 115,000 brands is a little over $400 million. And that's just with our target price at launch and just in the skincare industry. So a bit more about our business model. Again, we're embracing this annual subscription service. Again, our target price at launch is $3,500 per brand, but we do want to have some add-on services that we can provide for an additional fee. For example, access to our consumer market research or access to an additional supplier tracking feature that we're working on. Our marketplace, as I mentioned before, it's important to us for a couple of reasons, but one of the reasons is because it gives this opportunity for a growth model. We see that having more users, more consumers using the app will attract more brands who want to use ENVI's SaaS tool, who want to be featured on the app so they can be exposed to those consumers. Our projected growth KPIs. So of course, revenue is incredibly important to us, but some other metrics we'll be looking at are number of brands, annual fee, and how they change over time. So for example, in year 4, our target is to have 13,000 brands using the tool with an average annual fee of $8,000. Now this is year 4, so ideally we've branched out into other CPG sectors, and we've got some additional product offerings as well. Competition. So ENVI has not identified any other enterprise SaaS tool that also has a consumer-facing component. So Goodbye and Golden here, those are strictly consumer marketplaces. They generate revenue from commission off of product sales. You might be familiar with Green Seal or Certified B Corp. Neither of those are SaaS tools. Sustain Life here is a SaaS tool, but it does not have a consumer-facing component. As far as our team, that consists of myself. We have a few researchers. Our technical team is 2 engineers and 2 designers. We are working to finalize a contract right now to bring on an advisor in exchange for equity, and we are looking for some additional advisors as well. So we're getting to the end of the presentation here. This is just an executive summary to give an overview on who we are, our objectives, and some of the problems we're looking to solve, but I really want to make sure I end on our ask. So ENVI is seeking an investment of $150K to build out our team, mostly engineering and operations hiring. We want to release a larger scale B2B marketing campaign, really test out our MVP, see what's working. We want to work on some new product features as well so that we can do our beta release at a higher price point. And we believe that will get us to our pre-seed raise. So that concludes the presentation. Thank you guys so much for your time and for giving me a chance to share ENVI with you.
Awesome. Evan, fantastic presentation. A 2x price increase for brand trust. CPG companies should love that. Panelists, do you have any questions for Evan?
That was excellent. Well done. Congratulations on what you're building. You know, combine a company with a purpose and tight execution and first mover advantage. Very compelling. So good for you. The data that you referenced that ultimately creates the scorecard, which ultimately fuels your algorithm. Do companies right now already provide that data? Are they required? If I'm Estee Lauder, do I have to give that information, or is there a hurdle to getting it?
Is this the data that you're speaking about?
Yeah.
So generally, this data is very easy for brands to provide. When we say input material data, we're really talking about essentially what would be in an invoice. So what are you purchasing from your suppliers? What are your product ingredients? For transport data, that's also likely equally accessible. Think about when you ask FedEx to ship your products, FedEx is able to have estimates on how many vehicles they're using. Probably your price is directly based on what percentage of the freight, your products are making up. And utility data, that's what you would get from your utility company, your utility bill that you would pay to your manufacturer or whoever the facility is for electricity, and so on and so forth. So generally the data is accessible.
Okay, thank you. That answers that question. Does that then, and I think 2 things hit me really quick, just super fast. One, Gwyneth Paltrow, and I'll get to that in a minute. And second, if I'm aggregating all of the data, I'm ultimately creating your badging system. So your algorithm you're looking to make as a de facto standard. And that's good because I don't think one exists right now. I can't think of any kind of good housekeeping seal there is. I know there is in like buildings you go into and you can see this building is, certified compliant, but I don't know of it. So I can see that that space that you're moving into. But anyway, I'll stop there and let other people ask questions.
Yeah, Evan, I think
I'll go. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Chris.
Well, just a couple of comments for you because I think we have compressed time here. First of all, I'm an anagram guy, so Evan to ENVI, I get it. That was good. So y'all, I'm always curious how people come up with names. I'm going to assume that one. The other point is, this is a big assumption that in fact sustainability is truly a monetizable driver that you can capitalize on in consumer behavior. So I think you're going to be in an iterative experimental mode here and keeping your costs low and quickly getting product to a beta so you can test it and see what your ROI is for your consumers when they see that they share this app with their consumers. And then you get into the whole issue of consumer behavior change, go-to-market strategy, and so on. So I think, I like the kind of capital you're raising. And curious, what I would say is in a consumer-facing play like this, a small amount of capital, quickly getting a beta product out, testing it, proving your thesis, showing that you don't have big consumer adoption issues, go-to-market issues, testing go-to-market. Those are the kind of things I want to hear about. And then lastly, this is going to be as a seed angel deal. This is a bet on you. So a little bit more on why you're going to be able to do this with your background, I think is going to be important when you start raising money. So those are just comments, and you can respond to any of that if you like.
Thank you. I appreciate those comments. Yes, as far as the first one, as far as testing, of course, our objective is to get the MVP done. We're working on getting some LOIs this month. That's going to be our priority so that we can really see, what kind of traction we can generate. And as far as, interest in sustainability, it's definitely increased over the last couple of years. I think it's going to continue increasing just with the pressure our country, even nationally, or globally, we're under to address sort of climate change issues. But you're right, we definitely need some metrics, and I'll be looking out for that. As far as my background, I think in my introduction, I mentioned that I was a cognitive neuroscience major in undergrad. I spent several years working in research. I then pivoted to the entertainment industry, really wanted to be a champion for diversity and inclusion in that sector. But then during the pandemic, realized I had this other passion. Truly, I am just logistics oriented. I love to break glass ceilings. I'm the kind of person who will walk into a store and see if I can get a deal. I love a coupon. I'm just kind of scrappy in general. I want to make this happen. I believe I can. I know I can. And I am trying and spending a good amount of time building out the team. I do want a great team, and I don't want to rush that. I want to make sure that whoever we add is the right person and can help make this vision come to fruition.